let's bring in another former Husker who was in the Super Bowl coaching last year with the Cincinnati Bengals, Nebraska Football Hall of Fame quarterback, the last Nebraska offensive player to be named a Conference Player of the Year, Zach Taylor, joining us on Husker Headline. Zach, it looks like you're somewhere warm. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us.
I am. I'm down here in Florida, trying to enjoy a little bit of vacation. It's a little cold up in Ohio right now, so it's nice to get away. But Sarah and I are down here enjoying a trip.
Well, Zach, let's first talk about just Nebraska with you, because you've been away now. It's hard to believe it's almost 20 years now, but there's something about Nebraska I think that still is important to you. Last year you spoke to the women's basketball team in Indianapolis during the NFL Combine. I saw you down on the sidelines in Ann Arbor when Nebraska played in Michigan this year. There's just something about this place, even close to 20 years later, that still sticks with you today.
There's no doubt. And it was a special place to be, even though I was only there for 2 years. There's a time as I started my career in coaching where you kind of get away from it a little bit. But now that I got two boys that are 12 and 10, they're right in the thick of Husker athletics, and they love it all. We watch all the basketball games, and to be able to take them up to that Michigan-Nebraska game was a lot of fun for me. So we're right back in the thick of it and following everything that those athletic teams do right now.
So those boys are Husker fans, Zach?
They're big Husker fans. They went to the OU-Nebraska game in Norman last year, 2 years ago, with my parents. And then this year it didn't quite work out to get to the game up in Lincoln. So they have not been to a game in Lincoln. They went to the stadium 2 years ago in the summer. We took them up there. But then they got to go to that Nebraska-Michigan game this year, which is fun.
Well, you've got some former Huskers as well on your roster. Obviously, Stanley Morgan, but Cam Taylor-Britt came in as a rookie, second-round draft pick. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, by season's end, he was playing as well as any corner out there. Some of the plays he made for you. What is the buzz on Cam Taylor-Britt and kind of his future in the NFL after this season?
Yeah, he had kind of an abdominal injury in training camp and didn't get to play in any preseason games. So he was having a good training camp. We're excited about him. He missed all 3 preseason games. I think he missed the first 6 weeks of the season as he started the season kind of on IR there. So that was a challenge to miss all that time as a rookie, and then for him to jump in and play the way he did. Really, his appearance on the field coincided with us losing a starting corner, Chido Awuzie, to an ACL, and so he was thrust into that role, and it got better every single week. And was really excited about the future for Cam.
Was there something you saw in particular at Nebraska that indicated he would be able to handle it immediately? I guess you take him in the second round. That's what you're expecting, right?
He's really passionate about the game. You can see that. He's got tremendous athleticism, really good ball skills. You can see that on the tape from Nebraska. We saw that in training camp. Just in DB drills, you can see he's kind of got receiver-type ball skills, really good awareness. Yeah. Some guys, even in this league, don't track the ball down the field well at all. He's got a knack for that. He only had 1 pick this year, but I think that number will really improve as the years go by. But really competitive. One of our most competitive practice players, always locked in, and I really enjoy being around his personality.
We're talking with former Husker quarterback and now Cincinnati Bengals head coach Zach Taylor here on HuskerOnline Headlines. Zach, it is the Super Bowl this weekend. A lot of Nebraska fans have reasons to watch. But I'm intrigued on your thoughts on Ndamukong Suh, because you played with him at Nebraska. You coached him in Miami. I believe you coached him in LA. Now you'll watch him playing in the Super Bowl. Just speak to his career and what he's accomplished to this point. And I know the debate gets thrown around. Is he a first ballot Hall of Fame type guy? What are your thoughts on Ndamukong Suh?
Incredibly durable. I think that's what's fascinating about his career is his missed time. He might not have any. I'm not sure about these last 2 years, but there for a while, he had played in about every game he's ever dressed up in. And so that's incredible at that point. Does a great job taking care of his body. His work ethic's tremendous. And he really ramps it up. Once you get to this point in the year, that's where you see the best of him, later in the year, because he does such a good job taking care of his body. And he does a really good job making a lot of plays in the playoffs. I remember that. He kind of was a big part of us winning the Saints game and the NFC Championship game a couple years ago to get the Super Bowl. Made some big plays there. Made some great plays for Tampa in their Super Bowl run. And, I haven't watched a lot of Philly's defense, but I would imagine he's playing at a high level for them as well.
What do you remember about him at Nebraska? You were a veteran quarterback, 05, 06, coming from Butler, and he was just a young guy. He didn't play in 05, then came onto the scene a little bit in 06. Did you have anything that you would tell people that stands out about him?
I remember being relatively quiet. We also had some really good defensive lines the 2 years I was there. If you think about all those guys we had, all those guys. And so he was more of a role player, I think, my senior year. And then you really saw him turn it on those years after that with Bo what an incredible career. You guys saw a lot more of it than I did. I remember watching that Texas game and the Big 12 championship, and just a defensive tackle to take over a game like that, it does not happen. And, he's just a special player.
I'm curious, Zach, you're a guy that played at Nebraska. Your dad played at Oklahoma. What's your dad's thoughts on Oklahoma going to the SEC? What's the buzz in Norman, where you're from? Because a lot has changed. You were a Big 12 quarterback. Now Nebraska's in the Big 10. Your dad was a Big 8 guy, and now he's an SEC guy.
I still consider myself a Big 8 guy, really, deep down in my heart. And it's unusual. I went through this at Texas A&M, when they were making the change the year before we left. And I do remember a comment from a lifelong Aggie fan there saying, I'm just tired of going to some of these other places we've been visiting for these road games. It would be exciting to go to Knoxville and exciting to go to Oxford, exciting to go to all these places. And as a fan, that's just a unique experience that you can't replicate. And so I understand that part of it. It'll be strange to watch OU in Texas battling with Georgia and Florida and all these teams. But I'm just coming to you just got to accept it. That the landscape's changing. You can be old school and have all those thoughts that it's bad for the game. You just accept it and move forward, and it's going to be the new normal with all these teams playing in different conferences. And I think it'll be fun to watch UCLA play at Wisconsin on a Saturday afternoon. I'll watch that game. And so I think it's fascinating to see the different conference alignments, and it's fun for football.
Zach, you're 39, right? 39.
Yeah, I had to think about that, but yeah, you're right.
Still pretty young. And obviously you're clearly now cut out to coach the NFL. It looks very natural. We watch you. But does coaching in college ever cross your mind? Can I ask you a question?
No. No, they're going to have to carry me out of here in a casket.
Is that right?
Yeah, I love it. Just specifically in Cincinnati. It's a really good fit for my family and myself, just with myself and the other coaches and ownership and Duke Tobin, and I can't ever imagine myself anywhere else. So they'll have to kick me out of here.
Zach, you kind of chuckled when we mentioned that Rule and Alberts had an NIL, name, image, and likeness function tonight in Phoenix. Have you contemplated that part of the new college football at all? And what do you have any thoughts on it?
Maybe I'm old school. I liked the way that it was for me. I never took that money from the video game. It was an honor to play college football and get a scholarship. And I understand that I'm in a minority. And so you just got to embrace what's going on right now. So that's the way it is. And it's a challenge, I'm sure, for these coaching staffs it's free agency. You got to raise money to pay players. And at the last second, they could go somewhere else. I know the transfer thing. I was just talking to a college coach the other day, and the transfers, I guess, don't sign. You guys would know more about that than I do. They just show up in class. Is that correct? And
yep.
You pray that they show up and sit in their first class, and then they're part of your team.
Yep.
That part is just that's wild to me. It's a whole different element. So I don't know much. I don't research much on it. I see some of the mainstream stories about kids getting paid a lot of money. I'm sure not everywhere's like that, and it's fascinating to see how it's evolving.
Does your scouting department or the NFL scouting department, do they dig into NIL a little bit more and just kind of want to understand, if certain guys are getting lots of money? Because I got to think it's becoming more part of the process. Like, man, this guy's already getting this, in college, and just to kind of get a feel for each situation you're possibly going to draft.
When did that become legal? When did they start doing that?
June will be the 2-year anniversary.
Okay. So I don't remember it being a big topic of conversation last year during the scouting process, which we start to get involved in now. Maybe this year it'll see more of it. I haven't asked that question, but we start those meetings here in about a week, and they go all the way through the draft. So I'm sure in some of the players' bios, it'll mention what he got, and it'll be interesting to see how that factors in. I don't know yet.